Hello.
And we are recording. All right, we can now officially start talking about things that matter. All right, guys, everybody, this is Marty, Marty Kendall. Where in Australia are you, Marty?
Brisbane, which is the eastern side. I'm from the future, of course.
Gotcha.
It's a really bad joke.
Like we were just talking about, I first was introduced to you and what you're doing, which I think is amazing, when I heard you talking with Ella on a video several months ago. I have not been able to get through the near mass of information that you have on your website.
It's pretty epic.
What I have, it's super impressive. Like what I've done on my blog, is we have a lot of similar topics that we've covered on different things. But you've gone to such a level of detail. I'm much more about like getting information, okay, process it, get it out there the way that I understand it, and then maybe someone else will get something out of it. But you're like, okay, you probably, I don't know how long you research an article, but it looks like you spend months on it before you put anything out there. It's ridiculous. So if anybody wants very detailed, very good information, check out your website. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing, where how you got started in this whole nutrition thing and everything.
Sort of accidentally, I suppose. Day job is a civil engineer, so I do this sort of in my spare time. Sacrifice sleep and my weekends basically to do the Nutrient Optimiser, optimizing nutrition thing. But the wife, Monica, is a type 1 diabetic, so I suppose just living with her and seeing the blood sugar fluctuations and how much that affected her life was a real impact. And when we thought of having kids, it became really important because it's really important to optimize blood sugars during pregnancy, and nobody could really give us any good information, and we used what we could, and we got 2 amazing kids, and that was like the oldest turned 15 the other day, and they're thriving and doing well. But since then it's been a continual learning through low carb and keto and coming across people like Rob Wolf and Jimmy Moore and all the sort of low carb scene and low carb down under, and also type 1 grit, which is a Facebook group which is really amazing for type 1 diabetes. So after listening to Jason Fung, came across the insulin index and dove into how we could sort of quantify the insulin demands of food, and that was a rabbit hole. But then getting right down that rabbit hole, you realize that the foods that flatten insulin the most and gives the most stable insulin response also have a very low nutrient density. So from like Rob Wolf, and Matt Lalonde was a big hero, he's done amazing work on nutrient density. Thought, okay, maybe we can look at nutrient density and insulin load together to get a nutrient dense diet that keeps insulin levels stable, which is really important for people with type 1 diabetes. Put those things together and started to unpack it online and just sort of think out loud as a bit of a proof text to myself to say, this is how I understand it. What do you guys think? And started blogging, optimizing nutrition, and then sort of continued through that, realizing with myself that low carb keto only gets you so far if you want to actually optimize body composition and not be obese. And a lot of people put on a lot of weight trying to chase ketones and unlimited fat, satiety, and so and from I think as an engineer with numbers, and it's like, how can't people see that? Let me present it to you and dissect it. So that's been my quest, sort of to come at nutrition from a quantitative point of view, and it's hard to argue when you see the data. And I think it's tended to be complementary to the other information that's out there. Yeah, it's been a really fun journey, meeting a lot of amazing people.
Yeah. So explain to me, and for people watching, what is nutrient density and why it's important?
Yeah. So nutrient density is basically the amount of nutrients, the micronutrients that are harder to find per calorie. So you'll eat 2,000-3,000 calories per day, and you need enough nutrients in that amount of food that you eat. So really you want to optimize nutrient density. But other people have done work, like I mentioned Matt Lalonde, and there's also Joel Furman did a version of nutrient density. I suppose I've tried to add to that work and refine that work to say, well, carnivores are getting heaps of vitamin B12. Who cares if they're getting 20 times the minimum amount of B12? We don't want to count that. We only want to count the nutrients you're getting less of. So I just count the ones, are you getting, the Nutrient Optimiser score says if you're getting 100% of all the dietary recommended intakes,
Sure.
3 times that, you get 100%. So that's hard to achieve with real food, but it sort of gives you a quest to chase those harder to find nutrients.
Okay.
So it optimizes for the harder to find nutrients.
Yeah. So you mentioned the RDAs or RDIs. So are you...
Interesting topic.
Yeah. Where do those come in? So you just said you kind of compared data to those,
yep.
but at the same time, do those really even matter?
Oh, wow. Really controversial topic in the carnivore community. I've just, I'm in the middle of finalizing an analysis of, previously looked at Shawn Bakers' diet and a few other carnivore dietary approaches, and currently looking at Paul Saladino's diet and doing a really more detailed unpacking of
that. Will be amazing to see, because they're two very, I mean, they got the same ideas, but they're almost diametrically opposed to each other. Muscle meat is the way to go. No, you got to have organs, and no, you got to get fish roe. Like that will be awesome to see.
Yeah, no, and it's really fascinating because they're right, because there is bioavailability issues, and if you're eating phytates from grains, and you're going to get less absorption of iron and calcium and a few things like that, and vitamin A is more bioavailable from an animal-based diet, but at the same time, the things that most people struggle to get are magnesium, potassium, and a few of those core key minerals that are really harder to find. They tend to be more plentiful in green vegetables, and they don't tend to change in bioavailability or usage in the body that much. So that's what I'm trying to unpack and sort of dive down a little bit more into the system to look at, which ones matter, which ones don't. I mean, manganese, vitamin K, vitamin E, all these things are based on average population intake. So they just look at the amount that the average person is eating and saying, well, we don't really have any deficiency symptoms, so that's probably adequate. But if there's no deficiency symptoms, do you really need to chase more manganese and vitamin E and vitamin K and those sort of things, especially if you're not symptomatic? But for those other things, I think you can utilize the same thought process to optimize a carnivore diet as well, to make sure you're getting everything you need out of the carnivore diet.
Yeah, my wife and I had this discussion when I first started getting into low carb, zero carb, carnivore, and I love all those categories, right?
Diet religions.
Yeah, right. And because she's a licensed nutritionist, so it's what she does for a living. She's got her master's in nutrition, and so all the things that I'm learning, I toss at her, and she just looks at me and shakes her head. But we did have the conversation of RDIs and like, how do we really know what we need? There's almost literally no way to actually tell, unless you're going to test on a baby, right? When they're first born, they've got no exposure to anything else. It's completely pristine system. What do they need to survive?
Their nutrient content in the baby is directly related to what the mother was eating.
Well, that's true too. So it doesn't even matter there. Yeah. So there's no way to really tell. Is the stuff that you're doing with the optimizer, all the data you're getting, and we'll talk about what the optimizer is in a second. Is there a way? Gosh, because what information does the optimizer give you outside of what people are eating, when they're full, things like that? Do you get like health information? Like, do people have issues? Are you getting things that you can compare? Like, everybody that is reporting eczema is eating on average this much carbs a day. Things like that. Like,
that'd be fascinating and definitely an interesting investigation for the future. But what the optimizer does, it sort of says, which nutrients does your current diet preference? Like, if you say I'm paleo, I'm keto, I'm carnivore, I'm vegan, it says you're likely deficient in these nutrients. These foods will likely give you more of them. And we're doing a lot more analysis at the moment to say, okay, let's look at your symptoms. Do you have dry skin? Do you have poor memory? Do you have muscle aches? Those sorts of things, to say which nutrients, to confirm those possible deficiencies based on your intake. So, I mean, that's the next step of what we're doing at the moment. But the data we get back out of it, we've analyzed to look at what tends to influence satiety, which is a really fascinating rabbit hole for me that I've been chasing. And it tends to be that, you know, protein promotes satiety. So the more high percentage of energy you get from protein, the more satiated you are, and the less you tend to eat. So yeah, that's really good as far as actively limiting. But then you've also got other micronutrients like magnesium, potassium, phosphate, sodium, calcium, that also seem to drive satiety. So we can say people who get more potassium seem to be more satiated and eat less calories overall, which is a really fascinating, hopefully new addition to the whole discussion.
So it's an app that people can download.
It's a web-based app.
It's a web-based app. So now, okay, so people go in, they sign up for it, and then they say, okay, I want to start putting my data in here. Now I've seen it ties into chronometer.
Yeah, it takes your chronometer data and imports that directly across. So I've got a sync there.
Okay, that's awesome. So you're tracking all your food in chronometer, and it puts your stuff into the Nutrient Optimiser, and then it will tell you, hey, here's what you've been eating. You need to start eating more of this or less of this, or you don't need to worry about that, or whatever else it is, right?
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
Depending on your goals, whether you're trying to lose weight or gain weight, lean bulking, you're an athlete, you're a diabetic, we've got all different tweaks for those. And then, as you mentioned, different conditions within. So, you know, if you've got eczema, you might need more of these nutrients, and if you've got Alzheimer's, you might need more of these nutrients based on different research studies. So,
okay, that's fantastic. All right. And people are using this to not just, we think of most people think of nutrition as I need to lose fat, right? I need to eat to lose fat, but people are starting to, I think, at least in the circles that we're in, and I'm hoping that the people that we're influencing are starting to realize that the food that they eat can heal them, right? It can keep them from being sick, right? So I'm assuming that that's a really big side effect, a big part of what people are using the optimizer for. Yeah,
just people, as they focus on getting those harder to find nutrients, they feel energized. They feel, you know, my sleep's better, and I'm not hungry. I'm losing weight, and it just seems to affect their satiety, not just due to the macronutrients, but also the micronutrients. They're getting enough of what they need, so they're not craving more food. You know, Ted Naiman talks about the protein to energy ratio, that people eat enough energy to get the protein they need. And it seems you've got the same sort of thing with micronutrients as well. You'll just eat enough, you know, energy to get the potassium you need and calcium you need. And your body is really, really smart. And I suppose it's a bit of a quest to try and understand that numerically and design systems and algorithms to help that.
So if you can answer this question without getting too into the weeds, how do you know based on the data that that people are more satiated with protein? Like what points are you looking at?
So we've got how much a person ate in a day, compared to the basal metabolic rate. So we can look at the percentage of how much they ate compared to the basal metabolic rate versus how much protein they ate versus how much calcium they ate versus how much potassium they ate. And you can say, well, there seems to be a much stronger response to potassium and calcium and magnesium and those nutrients that people tend to be more deficient in our modern diet, which seems to be driving satiety.
Okay. So people are more likely to be under or over or at like their BMR based on the amount of protein or these other micronutrients that they're getting.
So if you eat more protein, you're going to be eating less than your BMR typically. Protein is the thing that affects it the most, and it's about 45% difference between the least and the most. So,
that's crazy. Okay.
It's a massive, like it's really hard to push protein to 50% intake because your body just goes, give me energy. I need energy as well. So it's a matter of nudging your dietary intake in the direction towards optimal. It's not a matter of going from, okay, I'm going to go from 10% to 60% protein.
You got to take your time. Like when I first started. When I first started, you know, for me, you know, eating more than 10 pounds, 10 pounds, eating more than
like a lot.
Eating more than 10 ounces.
Really full.
Eating more than 10 ounces of meat at one meal was like, okay, there's no way that's done. I'm done, right? And now I can, you know, a pound and a half is like, okay, I might be still hungry now, you know? So yeah, it definitely does kind of, you gotta work yourself into it.
I think it also depends on if you're lifting, if you're active, like you're going to crave more protein. I know when I'm lifting, my body just goes, give me more protein and give me more energy to recover. So, yeah.
And that's the other good thing that you just made me think about when you talk about when you're lifting and exercising is it changes the thought process of I need to eat to burn fuel to I need to eat to repair and build. Right. Because you're not thinking about, oh, I have to, the whole idea of I need to work this off. Right. It kind of goes away because you're getting what your body needs and you focus on building the protein so you can rebuild and do that again.
Definitely.
And then it's a better relationship with food because you're just worried about being healthy. Sure. All right, cool. So I got a couple other questions here. Let's see. We talked about what is nutrient density. So so the app makes it easy. One of the questions I had on here was tracking micronutrients seems really complicated.
Yep.
Right. But you've made it really easy.
Well, that's the idea. You look at Chronometer and go, well, I've got green here and yellow here and, red here. What do I do with that information? I suppose that was the frustration is Chronometer is great because it helps you track micronutrients, but everything else just is macros and calories, and people just focus, like you said, on restricting.
Right.
Chronometer is great because it shows you which micronutrients you're not meeting the RDI for, but then what you really want to know is what foods will give me more of the nutrients that I'm currently finding harder to get that I might be deficient in. So and I've been digging into a guy named Bruce Ames, done a lot of amazing micronutrient research, and his triage theory that basically says, if you get enough nutrients, if you get enough, you can survive. If you get none, you die. But if you get more than enough, you're able to repair and survive for the future and plan for longevity and repair your body for the long term. So I think we need to have that in mind, that the recommended daily intake is really a minimum to prevent deficiency, and usually much more than that minimum is optimal for health and longevity.
Right. Have you compared the data that you're getting out of the optimizer to any current micronutrient tests?
Yeah. Not specifically yet. I suppose that's a whole different rabbit hole, because you might have enough sodium in your bloodstream, but what's your body having to do to hold onto that sodium, or potassium, all those electrolytes? You have to upregulate insulin to make your kidney hold on to more of those harder to find electrolytes. So your body's probably working overtime to keep that to keep your potassium and sodium and calcium levels right and balanced in your body, and excrete the stuff you don't need and hold on to that. But over time, you're burning out your kidney.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's a way to maybe be like a predictive thing. Take the data that's in Nutrient Optimizer and predict. Right? If you're doing this now and you maintain this for the next 3 months, 6 months, a year, 20 years, whatever, then you can expect the following to happen.
As I said, we're looking at symptoms and conditions and saying, do you have this? Then you probably need to focus on that more. Actually testing. I mean, Chris Masterjohn's got an amazing, array of data on testing to prove that, and you can look at your organic acids test and to look at those micronutrients. But it gets very, very, very complex and very expensive very quickly. So we're trying to say, before you dive into spending thousands of dollars on testing, and a naturopath or whoever can do that, not many people can actually look at that data and say these are the things you need to have, or they'll say here's my favorite supplement that I get half of the money from. You really need more of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just going, what are the foods? Let's take the conflicts of interest out of there, and what are the foods that provide you with more of those nutrients?
Okay. So earlier you mentioned that you've got some data on, what are the common micronutrients that people following a paleo, keto, low carb, carnivore, vegan, whatever. Have you guys published that? Do you have that out there somewhere?
Yeah. There's a few articles on. I looked at the Should You Eat Lancet and did a really detailed breakdown of animal-based foods versus plant-based foods, and animal-based foods are typically amazing for all the amino acids and B12 and those sort of things, but they tend to be lower in magnesium, potassium, vitamin D, sometimes omega-3, but then the vegan plant-based thing is deficient in a whole bunch of others like B12 and omega-3 and choline that is really hard to get. So
okay, now here's an interesting question. I feel like I'm going to just keep coming up with questions.
That's great. I've got all day.
Do you take into consideration the bioavailability in the diet? So, somebody's putting their stuff in and, it says, okay, all the foods this person put in are all vegetables. So if it weren't all vegetables, if it weren't all plant-based, it would be this, but because it is all plant-based, it's this instead.
Yeah. If we had that data to actually analyze that, the answer would be yes, but there's not reliable data to say, you lose this much if it's animal-based versus plant-based. But it's typically, iron changes bioavailability depending on what you eat it with. So if you're not eating it with the phytates and the grains, you're going to get more into you. Vitamin A, most people are getting heaps of vitamin A, so it's not really an issue. But as I keep mentioning, it's typically those minerals that tend to be harder to find that don't seem to change in bioavailability depending on your current diet. So things like thiamine help you burn carbs more effectively. B2, which is riboflavin, helps you burn fat more effectively. So if you're on a low carb diet, you probably don't need as much vitamin B1, but those nutrients you don't need to focus on that much because most people are getting heaps of them. You only need to focus on and worry about bioavailability for the ones that are harder to find. So I think that's where we need to continue, progress the discussion around bioavailability to say which nutrients are you not getting enough of, and does bioavailability matter for those, and is there good deficiency data to say, that matters. And for E, K, manganese, those sorts of things, you don't need to worry about those. But which ones do you really need to worry about? Now, it gets really complex really quickly, but that's the human body and nutrition. And
absolutely.
We're amazing creatures. So,
and we're going to be learning for the next, thousands of years about all this stuff. Now, question of the century. What is more satiating, protein or fiber?
Our analysis, we did 500,000 days of data analysis from MyFitnessPal, and it tends to be protein and fiber both promote satiety, whereas non-fiber carbs and fat tend to, have the energy foods like you've talked about in your videos that you get energy from. So once you've got enough of that, I'm not dying a ditch on fiber. I don't really see you need to get this much fiber, but it tends to be plant-based foods that have those harder to find minerals tend to have fiber in them. So eat that, sure, but also your seafood, your oily fish with the little bones and your sardines or whatever. That's a certain type of fiber which is going to help with your gut bacteria as well. And gut health is an amazing rabbit hole that I'm going to try and tell you about.
Oh my gosh. So
that gets really complex quickly too.
So how do you explain to someone, or how do you have the conversation when you're talking to someone and they say, but I get more full when I eat fat. The more fat I eat, the more full I feel. Because I've had that conversation and I really have been like, I don't even know how. I'm trying to explain to you that protein, if you focus on the protein, you'll feel and eat less calories. But they're like, well, if I eat enough fat, I feel full too. And I know.
I had this stick of butter and this bulletproof coffee and this suet, and I felt really full. It's like, you're just down 5,000 calories, buddy. If you're actually tracking calories, the things that fill you up on a per calorie basis, it's the protein and fiber that tend to promote satiety. So if your diet's a high proportion of protein, but as we talked about, there's a point where even Ted talks to the point where you get so much protein, you're still hungry because you're in a 40% calorie deficit. And if you're really active and not trying to lose weight, then your body says, give me energy. I can't convert all this protein to ATP to use for energy because it's really hard work. You lose 25% of the protein in that conversion process to ATP. So your body says, I'm sick of eating the protein. I've had enough for everything I need to do. Give me some fat and carbs. And as soon as you, I don't know if you know Sian Foley, he's amazing, talks about don't eat for winter. It's that magic combination of fat and carbs that are very rare in nature, but incredibly common in our current modern processed food environment.
It's all together.
Sell some more stuff. That drive us to just binge. And even he talks about the things that drive a binge of these foods, and he's amazingly ripped and shredded, but as soon as he comes across the cookies or whatever it is, he just can't stop. So we're programmed to overeat those foods.
I gotta say, I'm very much the same way. Like I'm my weak spot right now, and I justify it every once in a while, is ice cream, right? And I think to myself, ice cream, it's a dairy, it's animal based, I can eat it, it's good, right? But 2 pints in a sitting might not always be the best thing, so.
Yeah, but if you're like, I got down to 85 kilos in February and been trying to just do a lot of high volume training since then. And you can't do that on lean meat and veggies only, because your body just says, I need the energy to recover and to do that activity. So you need to find that balance point between getting like that video you talked about was really brilliant, that you get the foundation of your protein and your nutrients, and then you top up with enough energy to fat as a lever. Ketogenics guys talk about that. You get enough energy that you're not overdoing it, but you're not under recovering. So you need to find that
because you can adjust that to what it is you want, but as long as you're prioritizing the protein and keeping that where you are, like, you can sustain anything from that point. There is no up and down, and I'm on it this time, I'm not on it that time. It's just, where are you? You're getting the protein, your body's going to function, your metabolism is going to function, right? You're getting enough fat, your hormones are going to function. And then from there, it's just, do you have performance goals? Do you have physique goals? Do you have composition goals? And then you just adjust there. But it's not a cycle of I'm dieting for this or I'm doing for that, or it's just that's how you are, right? I'm sure nobody, the cavemen weren't like, it's, I got a 5K coming up, I got to train for it. They were just freaking, they'd eat when they ate and what they could get,
Yeah. What was I going to say? Anyway,
So, all right. Do you have, like, if you were to picture a perfect world and everybody was looking at their food from a nutrient density perspective, right? How would that be different? What would be different about how people approach their day-to-day lives than maybe they do now when they say, hey, I'm going on a diet, what do I do? Or I need to fix my eating. What are some of the things that people can start looking at and saying, here's some other ways you can think about food or think about your health that's going to help you, as opposed to just thinking about, God forbid, calories in, calories out.
Fascinating question. When you look at, we talk about, some people say we're a fat hunter, and the Sapiens guy Brian Saunders talks about we chase fat, and in that Paleolithic environment, we wanted to hunt down the massive fat animal to clean it up, to get that energy that was really hard to get. And in particular seasons, we love those fat and carbs together because they really helped us build fat. But our modern environment has optimized to provide a ton of that fat and carbs together. So I think, and the things that have exploded in our food system lately are the refined seed oils. They make up a massive amount of our diet these days. And the refined carbohydrate, sugar, and refined starch. So you put that together, you get hyper-palatable modern food. So if there's one thing you can do, it's like next time you go through the supermarket, don't put anything in your trolley that you're looking on the ingredients list and you've got any combination of starch and refined seed oils, colorings or flavorings, and that'll eliminate a massive amount of the nutrient poor crap that fills our diet at the moment.
Yeah, so, and that's a good point, right? So the more, and this is, I want more people to understand this, that the more nutrient dense a food is, the less calorically dense a food usually is. Right? So if you're looking at a cracker, right, or a box of crackers or cookies or whatever else, it's going to have a crap ton of calories. But you know right off the bat, if this thing has got all these calories, there's probably nothing healthy in it for me. Right? So, and people, that's regardless of what it says on the label. That's regardless of the low fat or heart healthy or whatever else might be on there. First off, if it's in a box, it's probably not something that you want to be doing. So, okay.
And further to that, if it lists, artificial flavors and artificial colors or natural flavors or whatever it is, the reason why they had to put that in is the food tastes like crap because it's got no nutrients unless they put this shitty makeup over it, this thin glossy crap of paint, because the reason why good food tastes amazing is it's got nutrients. Our nose and sense of taste guides us to food that is good for us, but we can no longer trust those senses in our modern environment.
So that's a really interesting point, that it's the micronutrients that provide flavor. Is there man, my head's going, I'm going all over the place now. Is there a I don't even know way to kind of say what flavors tie to what micronutrients? Like,
they've done that research to look at, if you look at, you should read The Dorito Effect by Mark Schatzker.
Okay.
He's dug into all this, and his mates that he profiles in that looked at, why does chicken taste really bland and crap these days? Why does your tomato taste like nothing like the tomato 50 years ago did? Because it's, what we grow it in and how quickly we grow and how we, select for different foods that grow more quickly. We're growing for, what it looks like on the shelf and the shelf time and how quickly it grows and how cheap it is to produce. But the flavor's not there because the nutrients aren't there, because it's not grown in fertile soil with a whole lot of animal crap running around in it that's got microbes in the soil that then go into the plant, that go into your gut, that promote, a healthy ecosystem inside yourself.
I love it. Okay.
Everything's grown in these fields that have just been churned over and over and over again.
Right.
Nutrient depleted, a whole lot of chemical fertilizers in there that couldn't have happened unless we discovered how to make chemical fertilizer in 1931.
Right.
Or basically dumping oil, methane, non-renewable gas into our food system, and that's what pops up in the packages on our shelves. So no wonder we're screwed.
Yeah, no wonder we're screwed, right? We're fat and we're eating oil.
And then you've got these health ratings and health stars, and the package says it's got 100% of your vitamin B1 in your Frosted Flakes because it's got a whole lot of fortified, chemical made B1 in there. When that does that work the way that a full suite of vitamins does? Probably not. So I suppose that's why we've designed the Nutrient Optimiser, is to cut through the bullshit in nutrition and food packaging to say, if this food actually contains this full suite of micronutrients that you need without relying on a whole lot of fortification, then good to go. But if it doesn't, then avoid like the plague.
That's fantastic, man. Hey, I appreciate your time. I really do.
Thanks for letting me
in. We could see. I have a problem where once I start talking to people that I'm on the same wavelength with, I couldn't literally just go, and I have to realize that not everybody's going to watch 3 hours of me just rambling. So, where can people find you and your information?
Yeah, so we've got Optimizing Nutrition, which is the large scale blog posts where I go through everything in detail, and this is what I think. What do you guys reckon? So you can check out optimizingnutrition.com. And then nutrientoptimiser.com is the simple tool that tells what macro ranges you should target and what micronutrients you might be getting less of, and which foods and meals that'll help you optimize your diet.
Gotcha. Real quick, does the optimizer, you can select like what your target, like if I want to do keto, I can say I'm a keto, and it'll kind of give you a baseline range of stuff.
Okay. What's your target? Is it diabetes? Is it weight loss? Is it lean bulking? Is it are you trying to be an athlete? Are you actually trying to achieve therapeutic ketosis, which not many people are, but they eat like they are, and
we could do another whole talk on that. Awesome, man. All right, thank you very much. We'll definitely be back with you. All right,
that'd be good. Love to chat.
See you.
Thanks, man.